What is going on, everybody? We are back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is Sunday, December 1st, 2024. No, that's not fake news. It's real news. It's really the 12th month of 2024, believe it or not. I'm stunned as anybody, but we are fresh off of one of the big four Survivor Series. We're here to break it down at WR. I'm stoked about it. I'm Clark Taylor. I'll be hosting today. I've got a sweet crew, an original daily broadcast crew hanging out with me this afternoon, evening, depends on where you are geographically, but that's neither here nor there. We're going to talk about Survivor Series, of course, everything you need to know about it. And we can't have opinions on Survivor Series without the head of opinions talking about Survivor Series out in Philadelphia. Anthony, what is going on? Happy Sunday.
Hey, how you doing? It was a bit of a lackluster Survivor Series. We'll get into that. But the one thing, and I know you, Clark, and probably Ignacio would remember this. I couldn't help but notice with Alicia Taylor, the jacket. I could not help but think of Ninja Turtles: Secret of the Ooze, the scene in there with the smoke bomb that you have to take the bells off of the jacket. I could not stop thinking about that the entire time when I saw her.
I didn't even consider that, Anthony. That is spot on. That's golden. Okay. By the way, Ignacio is here hanging with us too. Second day in a row. Good to have you back, Ignacio. What's going on? Happy Sunday.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. It's very rarity where I'm on 2 days in a row now, but I'm hopefully to make that on the regular if Ben allows it. But I have a little bit different opinion than Anthony has on Survivor Series, so we'll get into that. I thought it exceeded my expectations personally, but we'll get into that.
Definitely. And I'm stoked to talk about it too. Yeah, I might be in the middle too, which will make this fun for sure. But let's also introduce, last but very certainly not least, up north of the border in Canada, the man that reviewed the show last night, working overtime today, Coby Galenzoski. What is good, my friend?
Of course, what is good? It is the WR Daily, and of course, I'm back, and it's on a Sunday, and it's not Fun Day, and it hasn't been Fun Day in a while. But of course, I'm here to talk wrestling. Last time I was on was the Full Gear review, and now I'm back talking all things Survivor Series. I'm excited. I thought it was a very well done show. I mean, when people have expectations of, there's going to be a Rock appearance or there's going to be a heel turn, or like when people get things in their mind that this is going to happen and it doesn't happen, sometimes that creates a negative connotation over the event. And I mean, I thought it was a really good event from start to finish myself.
It has nothing to do with The Rock.
We'll definitely get into it. We lost Coby momentarily, but he's back. We got a great comment over here because this tickled me. This might be the greatest name for a podcast I've ever heard, so I'm shouting them out. Mm-hmm. They said, "What's up, guys?" But it's over on Instagram. It's the Don't Say the F Word podcast. I promise we won't say the F word, but that tickled me, man. What is going on? Happy Sunday. Thank you for tuning in, and I assure you we won't say the F word.
Yeah, you gotta tune in to take it to the table.
Absolutely.
There's no filter on that.
If you do want to hear the F word, Take It to the Table has plenty of them for sure. Let's talk about women's war games, though. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Heading in, there was some criticism about how it came together, but the teams did make sense at the end of the day. Did not, in my mind, have the baby faces going over on my bingo card. Didn't. Rhea Ripley, of course, riptide through the table for the win, takes the mask off. I mean, it's hard to punch somebody in a mask that has horns on the face. But I will say she did eventually lose the mask, which I thought made a lot of sense. And the face paint looked so cool aesthetically. I have to shout out Ripley on that one. That was a very cool, the reveal and all of that, right? Like the intensity level rose. And I do appreciate just like that little, extra tidbit when it comes to that part of the match. I enjoyed this, but once again, I did not have the baby faces going over. So Rhea pins the champion Liv. Are we getting Rhea Liv in a rematch now coming out of this? We didn't have much in the way of the Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill storyline in this match. We didn't see anything related to that. What do you see as far as the fallout following the women's War Games match, and what was your opinion on the execution of the match as a whole? Anthony, I'll start with you, and then we'll go around the horn.
Yeah, I think as a whole, this match was very clunky. Naya's had probably her worst performance since she's come back, which is a shame because Naya's had an incredible run since she came back to the company. The match itself, like I said, it was very clumsy at different points. As cool as a visual it was with Io, with the moonsault, with the trash can, she does it every time now. I mean, granted, this is the first time she did the moonsault, but she's done the trash can spot every time. Like it's no longer special. You're doing it every time. They almost did the Money in the Bank spot, which Clark and Ignacio we all talked about yesterday, where that kind of probably would have been a really cool spot to do if they would have done it. They at least teased it. I loved Rhea's riptide through the table. I thought that was a great finish for the match. But going into it, what we talked about yesterday on yesterday's show was I thought this would have fit more along a Survivor Series traditional elimination match. This did not feel like a heated rivalry to justify a War Games match. I mean, other than Liv and Rhea, where's the real heat there? There really isn't. So everyone else was just kind of thrown in there, including Bayley.
It did feel okay. That is a very good point. The blood feud aspect of this for a War Games match very much just felt like around all of these other people, Rhea's gonna have a shot to get her hands on Liv inside of a double cage, right? Like that does feel like it was kind of the ethos of what the match was built around, right? Like Ripley's huge entrance, the mask, all of that, a lot of theatrics. Now, you made some points about the botches early in the match, or clunkiness, sloppiness. Yeah. There was some funk in this one. I will say it built to a crescendo. It got really good at the end, like you mentioned with the Money in the Bank spot and what happened with Ripley. But early in the match, I think card placement was key here from an entertainment standpoint. Having this one first made it a little bit more acceptable. If this is somewhere else on the card, I think I would have had more. Like the Candice LeRae spot, the sunset flip that and that's a brutally difficult spot along the cage to do. But me and Chaos were joking about it last night. Like the look on Candice's face was like, no, try that again. Like I'm not that one. Like no.
I mean, it's an enviable position to be in because when you have 2 War Games or 2 Royal Rumbles, they're going to bookend it. They're going to do that. Right. And you knew there was no way the Bloodline was going to open the show. So you knew they were kind of pigeonholed into that opening spot. So that's a lot of pressure to open up a show. Botches happen. I'm not saying that I could do it any better.
We're not here to be like overly critical in the least. It was still entertaining. As it needed to be, right?
Yes.
I mean, now another one though that is interesting. You mentioned the trash can spot, and it is funny because, like you said, they basically added, the trash can spray painted this time, and she's going to do a backflip too. I will say, for a split second, moonsault, right? It's a backflip, same thing. But for a split second, when she was airborne, I was like, man, she's going to catch the lip of that can on her stomach and slice her stomach. That was what I was like, that is a daint. It's one thing to jump off covered in a trash can. It's another thing to flip with it, right? I'm like, man, you could have.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
It's a dangerous spot. And here's the thing, just overall in wrestling, I feel the dive on a group of people has been overdone to such a point that it loses its value because you're just going, they're waiting.
I gotta give Io credit though. The landing was so graceful. The way she sort of came out of the trash can, everybody's down, the trash can's down, and she's the first one to stand up. That took some serious athleticism.
Oh, absolutely.
To do that. I mean, because the adrenaline rush alone, like that's one of those people talk about, like in spots like that, like you actually can get nauseous because you're so nervous. Like, and for her to be the first one on her feet after the landing was pretty impressive to me.
It's just incredibly risky of a move to do. A moonsault off of a 20-foot cage is dangerous enough.
Yeah. Now do it blind.
Doing a blind is a whole other animal.
Now put on a blindfold and try it.
that could is as well. It's not just a row or blindfold.
Easily. Ignacio, I'm going to go to you next, and then we'll go to you, Coby. But what were your thoughts on the match coming out of it? it looks like we're going to get maybe a final chapter when it comes to Rhea and Liv, which I kind of find interesting because I think this is one of Liv's best runs.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily know if it doesn't make the most sense, as over as Rhea is, to just go right back to that well and have Rhea Ripley be your world champion. It does make some sense on paper coming out of this, considering she just pinned the champ. And I mean, yeah, it's a tough situation because Liv is in a difficult spot trying to match Rhea as a heel because everybody loves her so much. I thought they did a good job with this match, but I do want to get your thoughts on all of that, Ignacio.
Yeah, but they're definitely continuing the story. But the thing is, Mike, what I'm trying to think about is, well, when is it going to end? Can they push it to WrestleMania? Do you think that's possible? I think they can get creative and they can get that far. But I'm imagining that they're probably going to do a match at the Rumble, right? And if that's the case, and Rhea takes the title off of Liv at the Rumble, then who's going to be Rhea's opponent at WrestleMania? Because it's got to be a big match, marquee match. I don't know, to be honest. Even though I love the story between Rhea and Liv, I don't think that in and of itself is a big marquee match for WrestleMania. Being it's in Vegas, it's WrestleMania 41. It's the big event's probably been a bigger WrestleMania than last year was, because we're coming out of I don't know, the new era, the Triple H era, Endeavor era. Now we're well into the Endeavor WrestleMania era. So I don't know if that even though it's a great story, I don't think it's a big enough story to be a marquee match for Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania, even though Liv is doing very good work. But if they do plan on taking the title off of Liv and giving it to Rhea before WrestleMania, they got to have something big in store for Rhea at WrestleMania. But just
really
overall,
interesting that you said that.
Overall, about the match, War Games, it's like the Rumble. It's a bunch of punches, kicks, and then a spot here and there. You know what I mean? But I thought Anthony was right. The match was very clunky. I didn't think this was by far the worst match, in my opinion, of the night. And the women just don't do War Games like the men does. And I've said this before, and I know maybe Ben probably disagrees, and there's some people that disagree, but not everything has to be equal. Like, you don't have to have, just because you got a male War Games match doesn't mean you have to have a female War Games match. You know what I mean? You can hold off on that till next year, till it merits it. I think that it should have been like a 5-on-5. You know what I mean? A traditional Survivor Series match. And you don't have to do it for the sake. It's kind of like how they had Hell in a Cell, right? But they didn't have a female Hell in a Cell match, even though I thought Rhea and Liv were gonna have the female Hell in a Cell match, but they didn't, and I'm kind of glad they didn't, bro, because it just, not everything has to be equal all the time. The men, they're more prominent, they draw more money, so they should get the bigger spots. The only time that was the exception was when Becky Lynch was the hottest thing in the business, but she's not anymore. And there's not there's not a woman, not even Rhea Ripley right now, is as hot as Becky Lynch was when she was, quote unquote, the man.
So I'll say this. One thing I definitely agree with. I do on the, as far as the drawing money part of it, I do think that the women's roster can draw similar to the men. But one thing I do agree on is you put the pressure of comparison, right? So the women's War Games match goes first, and it will be directly compared to the main event match.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And given the storytelling being not the length and not what was put in to that main event match, you put the pressure of comparison on this one. If it's a 5-on-5 elimination match, it's not as easy to do that, where we sit and put them side by side, right? And it can be flipped too. It could have, if it made more sense, you can have the men's match be the elimination match and the women's match be the War Games, but it takes the pressure of comparison of the two off of each other. And that's a concept that I really do like. Now, 1 second really quickly though, because there's one thing that I literally meant to ask you the whole time, Ignacio, and forgot about. But obviously you and I are both fans of Rocky.
Oh yeah.
I thought her facial expressions during the handcuff spot was some of the best work of her career. It was a very simple action within the match, but that look of shock when she turned around and realized, oh no, I'm stuck on the ropes, was some of her best, because we know she's physically imposing. We know she can be dominant. She's as strong and athletic as anybody in this division. We know that talent's there. But this showed me a different side for the first time in a while on the main roster. I felt like where I was like, it stood out to me. I actually I was taking some notes. Like, don't think I'm a big note taker when it comes to the show, guys. It's mostly off the cuff. But at the end of the day, I did like, it stood out to me. I'm like, Raquel Gonzalez did exactly what she was supposed to do in that match. She played that role to a T and deserves credit for it. Because there's been some criticism about it's just the Kevin Nash and Shawn Michaels thing or whatever, right? And maybe she can't stand up to Kevin Nash. That was world class last night, and it wasn't her wheelhouse, right? It wasn't a explosive power move spot or something like that, right? It was outside of the traditional Raquel Gonzalez comfort zone, I would say, even, right? And it blew me away.
Well, it's like, if people would say that, it's like, okay, bro, well, what do you want her to do? They're trying to find a role for her to grow her character. You know what I mean? Not everybody's a Kurt Angle or a Kevin Nash, who can just jump into it with both feet and they got it. She's experienced. She was on the indies for a little while. She was in NXT. She was at the Performance Center. Bro, she just needs a little bit more character work. That's it. And I think she will be a star because she's got a look. She's imposing. She's big. She's strong. You know what I mean? She's among these crowd, or I should say crowd. Actually, she's among these big girls that they're starting to highlight and pay attention to. And she's going to be a star. She just needs to work on her, I guess, for lack of a better term, her acting skills, and that's it.
I completely agree. And like you said, I think her ceiling is almost higher than people realize at this point, if that makes sense, right? It just is. Now, Coby, obviously, you rated the match. A little bit of a high rating. I'm not going to spoil it. Obviously, go read the article, my friends. But you enjoyed this maybe the most of anybody I know. I'm kidding. It's obviously within the system, but dead seriously, your thoughts on the match and everything coming out of it. How did you feel about it?
I mean, I feel like a broken record if I'm going to sit here and say the same thing that has already been said. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and act like Nia Jax was great. And I'm not going to sit here and act like Nia Jax was performing well. Because there were timing issues. And I do not need to see Nia Jax clock Naomi with a chair shot because Naomi wasn't in position. There are miscommunications that happen. There's timing issues that happened. Guess what? Grow up. This is something that we can move on. We can literally move on from. But what I'm not going to do is sit, and this is similar to what happened at Bad Blood. The finish fell extremely flat with Raquel Rodriguez's return at Bad Blood. I'm not going to take Nia Jax's performance and make it a big bad omen for this entire match and sit here and say it was a bad match. There were rough things, like I already mentioned, but there is a lot of really good stuff here. I sat here and I saw two teams who were, yes, they weren't like, okay, this is a team of 5 women and a team of 5 women, and they are in a blood rivalry. But there was kind of a unique dynamic, and the story that they were telling is, well, these are two groups that are just kind of using the statement of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And that's what it was. We had Rhea Ripley. The only thing that I liked from SmackDown's promo was Rhea going, well, we all have an issue with someone on their team. That's what's bonding us. And then you have Liv Morgan and Nia, who were the only ones who said something on SmackDown, go, oh yeah, no, we're fine. We are the united front. You have the issues. You have Bayley and Io who beat up Bianca for years. And like, they were trying to plant the seeds. But the biggest thing coming out of this match is Tiffany Stratton trying to cash in, or at least hinting at it. She had the briefcase in the trash can, which is a fun spot. I kind of predicted it the way she kept the trash can standing. And I was like, okay, I think there's something in there. But overall, like, it was an enjoyable match. That pop made that worth it. To me, now we have, okay, well, now Nia Jax is going to be mad. And now Tiffany Stratton's going to go, well, why did Candice LeRae go steal my spot and go after me? There are things that were done that can be used in the future. And I mean, if they're not used, that's on the booking right there.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to sit here and say there's bad because of one omen or one element that was not good and act like this wasn't a positive match as a whole, because it was a really fun match.
Okay, Coby, one thing I do want to address. You brought up the Nia Jax stuff. Nia Jax saved Naomi's life on the chair spot.
Well, yeah.
If she'd have swung for the fences, she could have decapitated.
Oh, yeah.
Like you
Yeah,
heard,
I
you
mean,
heard
that's a
she
timing
kind of
issue.
dinked her with the chair, and you could audibly hear her in the microphone say no. And I thought in the moment, she wasn't saying no like to any, it wasn't trash talk. She was thinking out loud. She was like, oh, wait, no. Like, if I swing this thing, it's going to take her head off.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's the thing.
And this
I
is
mean,
the other part.
that's
There's the
to the
pressure from Nia on the like. So if that is how it goes down, we're immediately back to, well, Nia's unsafe. And
Well, exactly.
I think that is something coming out of the match that
Like-
like she doesn't get credit for that. She could have swung. Speaking of swinging
Well,
for the
she
fences, though,
she
by the
could have
way.
took her head off. She could have took her head off if she wanted to. And then we're back on this. Okay, well, Nia's unsafe and Nia's dangerous. It was like, well, no. I mean, it was a timing issue. She slowed her chair shot down and was like,
Yep.
and okay, I have to hit her this way. It didn't look pretty,
She kind of dinked her,
but it
didn't
also
look great,
looked
but she
better
could have
than caving
killed
her
her.
Naomi's skull.
Easily.
Like,
DC
and
Warlord said
that's-
Naomi was the
that's the
MVP.
thing.
We got to give Naomi credit too. Also, the Rikishi.
To paying
Oh, I
homage
mean,
to
that
her
was
father-in-law.
classic.
Yes.
That was classic.
Yeah.
That was vintage. Loved that. And speaking of the other things, speaking of swinging for the fences, if they don't sell that custom Louisville Slugger, it is a stone left unturned. That custom baseball bat that Liv was wielding, that
Yeah.
was a Louisville Slugger. I believe it was a maple. I believe that one, speaking of, I believe it was a Canadian maple Cobe. It was a signature series. That was the Buster Posey Big Barrel. No joke. Like that thing had the handle and the sticker on it and everything. And yeah, they painted it up. But I'm like, dude, don't. As a baseball geek, I was tickled. I'm like, that's a Slugger. That's a Louisville Slugger. That's a major league bat. Like she didn't come with she didn't go to a Modell's and pick up some sort of random bat from the barrel. Like that is a major league baseball bat. And I loved that part. That was one of the things that just absolutely tickled me. And the answer is, Coby, in the private chat, we are absolutely going as long as we'd like. We might go all day. I'm
Wow,
kidding.
that might be hard.
No, 60. Yeah, we're going that long. I mean, how could we not at this stage? Let's get into Shinsuke Nakamura, our new United. Oh, not wrong one, wrong graphic. We're
There you
back. United States champion. We'll talk about the IC title next. But
Mhm.
we've got Nakamura picking up the victory. United States champion. Kinshasa entrance music, different. All of
Mhm.
that, different aesthetic. I dug it. Didn't expect it. Did not expect it. I will tell you that much. Anthony,
Mhm.
I mean, this, I think, may have been the most unpredictable result of the evening. Would you agree with that one?
It's funny because when I was on the prediction show, I said I would like to see Nakamura win the title. I like the assassin character that they're kind of portraying him as, and when his match coming up in Japan in January, it would be a really good look for him to carry that title into the show and possibly defend it. LA Knight's title reign as a whole, I got to be honest, I think it has not exactly lived up to the chase for it. It's had its moments, but as a whole, I don't think it's been that spectacular as a whole. I liked Nakamura winning it. I liked his entrance. The look, it's very Shredder-esque. And I like the new music, to be honest with you. But yeah, it is a shock value that they did change the title, but I think it's the right move. If you're able to have Nakamura as this heel champion and you can kind of run with it, and we get like the Nakamura that was kind of in NXT, a nice run, although heel this time, I'm more interested in that. I think LA Knight is better at the chase than he was holding the title.
I do agree. LA Knight is more built for the chase than he is built for the carrying the belt as a babyface, right? Now one thing that I will say that frustrated me, Anthony, and you might agree with this. I think the translating the promos from Japanese for Nakamura is a godsend. We've needed this for a long
absolutely.
time.
Yeah. Well, and they're doing the same thing with Julia. And
can we get an accurate translation? I learned you. Stop it. I studied your every move. I learned you.
Yeah,
Can we get a real translator in here?
I mean, listen, if you want him to speak broken English, you're not using subtitles. So
just let him speak broken English and we'd know what he meant. But if he's speaking in Japanese, that's not exactly what he said. And I know it's not.
I mean, listen, this is significantly better than the days of Kai and Tai, Clark, as you remember. But I mean, Ignacio does too.
How about I've studied your every move?
Choppy.
No, it's kind of funny because Nakamura's promos are essentially like the promo video that they did Shawn Michaels Triple H for the 02 SummerSlam. I know your every move. I find your threats absurd. That's what it reminds me of when he's cutting these promos now.
That's where I was like, so I've studied your every move, right? Would have been so much better than I learned you. Like that, there's no way that's exact. Like someone Google translated that, not actually translated it, right? Because you never know with like slang words and whatnot. The direct translation is different, right? Like there's different connotation. Spanish to English, same thing happens all the time, right?
I mean, like I get it. There's certain words that don't exist in different languages, but learned and studied, I'm pretty sure that's universal in different languages. Yes.
Yeah, like, but I learned you just like there's no way he said it like that. There's no way.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I'm not buying that one, but I did love the match. Let's keep it rolling though. Let's move on. Let's talk Intercontinental title picture here because this triple threat was pretty dang good. Except I have one really big complaint. I have one legit complaint coming out of this. I thought it was awesome and everyone loved it. Ludwig Kaiser wrestled for like 4 minutes of the match total, and he was awesome in it. But Coby, you and I have watched plenty of triple threats, and I've told you about how much I love when all three are involved. And yes, we forgot about Ludwig in this match, and that was part of the psychology of this match. But he didn't get really beat up. Braun Breaker and Sheamus put it on each other for the majority of the match. Ludwig's out there, you know what I mean? Like, was he drinking water bottles and like, hanging out? Maybe there was snacks behind.
He was just waiting for the shillelagh spot.
That's what he's waiting outside the ring. Like, you guys fight, and then I'll hit you with the wood stick. Don't worry about it. We got this. And I mean, Sean Ellis is in the comments with Sheamus got screwed. I mean, yes. Sheamus got screwed because he wrestled the longest match of anybody. And he wrestled both guys. He's the only one of the three that wrestled both guys. Like it was 2 one-on-one matches within a triple threat match. One short one long one. Sheamus was involved in both. I gotta give him credit. Coby, obviously you rated the match. It was a great match. Don't get me wrong, I was entertained. But where was Ludwig all that time, right? Like they kept him off. I wonder if it's the convenience of the 2 rings. It just made it easy not to even show like where he was at. He disappeared for half the match.
The thing is coming into this match, there was one thing that kind of made me sit here and go, okay, I think I know where they're going with this, and that's Braun Breaker pinning Ludwig Kaiser because they want to protect Sheamus. And I think that to me is what stands out because they didn't. They had Braun Breaker pin Sheamus, not Ludwig Kaiser. And I think that's the interesting part that stands out to me is, okay, well now Braun Breaker decisively beat them both. And I mean, as much as he can work his way back and all that, I can't sit here and argue, okay, well, the Sheamus Breaker rivalry should continue. Probably shouldn't at this point. But I mean, this is the thing. It was a hot Vancouver crowd. You had the people who enjoyed Sheamus, the people who gave Braun Breaker mixed reactions depending on who he targeted. If he attacked Sheamus, he would get booed. If he attacked Ludwig, he was getting cheered. You had Breaker doing Breaker things like that double clothesline from the apron to the announce table. You had him do that wicked jumping clothesline that came out of into the frame like he was Superman in a way. Like, it was insane. A lot of this was just really good stuff. I mean, like you said, and the one comment I saw was, these wrestlers wrestled this like a house show. Okay, well, I don't think Sheamus is getting his shillelagh cracked over his back time and time again, scarring his back in the way he did, because you can see the photo he posted, and he took a beating. That's not a house show beating. That's Sheamus having his banger at that point. I mean, it was an enjoyable match. I just don't know where they go from here, because now who's there for Breaker? Because that's the thing that stands out here. And it's like, well, I don't know what's next, because I thought they would have protected Sheamus, but they didn't.
Yeah, it was as funky as could be that it was Sheamus who took the pin. Although I will say, logically speaking, he took so many moves by comparison to Kaiser. That's the only thing that made sense.
Psychologically, it made sense.
Right,
he took the Kaiser DDT, he took the shillelagh whooping, and he took a big spear. It made sense.
That's another thing.
It obviously was there.
This is kind of funny, but like, obviously Sheamus pretty dang pale, right? Like, the white noise is named after his skin tone, right? Not the sound machine people play at night to go to sleep. But like, when he gets hit with the shillelagh like that, or like other things, it shows on him. Almost, one of those aesthetics that I think for wrestling, it's. I don't want to say it's a benefit to Sheamus, because you got to be tough, obviously, to take shots like that and whatnot. But it does make it, right, like the immediate, like you mentioned, right, the scarring up his back, the bruising up his back, all of that stuff. It's an immediate aesthetic. It's evidence.
It's for the impact. It's the same reason why when they get color and they bleed in a promo, a lot of times they conveniently are wearing white, because it shows more. So that's, it kind of shows more with Sheamus, like you said.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Also, we've got a great comment over here on Instagram that I did want to read. 1306 Majesty said, I want to become a wrestler. It's my biggest dream. And then he said, I can't wait to face Cody Rhodes and other WWE superstars. Dude, go for it. Absolutely. Respect from all of us at WR. We're rooting for you. Mm-hmm. We can't wait to see that either. Absolutely. Go get them. And then we've got a couple other comments here. Sean Ellis, friend of the show. Absolutely. Shout out, Sean. How many times is WWE going to use Sheamus as a talent enhancement or jobber before he leaves for AEW? I don't think that's coming anytime soon. I don't think that's coming anytime soon. He's not leaving. But I do agree in some ways. Timing wise with Sheamus, we've seen him in the world title picture. We've seen him in the mid-card title picture. We've seen him play various roles throughout his career. He's the ultimate utility player, for lack of a better way to put it, right? You can kind of, plug and play, right? Wherever it is on the card. Mm-hmm. It's one of his calling cards. But it is weird to me how it feels like occasionally we just have to, we almost have to rebuild Sheamus up to believe he's going to win some of these matches. Like this one, right? And that cycle, I don't want to damage Sheamus in the long run, because I do believe he's an immense talent.
I don't think it will, but he's in the position now where he's already got a Hall of Fame resume. The Intercontinental title is not going to make a difference. Will he get it? Probably eventually before he retires. But he's in the position what you're supposed to be doing as a veteran, putting the future over. That's what he's doing.
I mean, that's the thing. And we obviously the IWC is like, WWE's got to make their new stars. Okay, well, I mean, and then the opposite of the shoehorns, like, okay, well, when Sheamus is going to get his moment? I mean, yeah, he probably will get his moment, like you said, Anthony, but I mean, he's a 46-year-old Sheamus. As much as he's putting on his bangers, it's not like they don't need to elevate his stock anymore. Sheamus is putting on his bangers, and he's a heck of a talent. And the last 4 years, he's been a heck of a talent.
I randomly said this last night, and it's terrible because we have zero. We are a UK based media site. We have zero UK guys, but I said this last night, Coby. I go, he's had enough bangers. We need a little more mash. Just a little bit more mash. That would be nice.
I mean, listen, the IC title is not going to teeter whether or not he goes in the Hall of Fame or not. It's not. It's an accolade.
His stock doesn't need to go any higher. We don't need Sheamus to be we don't need to take Sheamus to the point where he's going to be carrying the company. No, they got
He's
Cody
never
down,
going to carry the company.
They got
yeah.
Seth. He doesn't need to be the face of the company right now. His stock is fine. He's there. I mean, even in the last 4 years himself, he's in his peak of it, the peak of his career as well, with the amount of bangers he has on every year since COVID.
100%.
But like, he's been off the charts.
100%. Okay, let's keep it rolling though. I'm going to do a little bit of a quick message from our friends over here at Progress Wrestling. And if you haven't checked this out yet, what in the world are you doing? Demand Progress Plus is one of the absolute best tape libraries on the internet. It's not even close. If you like pro wrestling, you're watching the show and we know it. So it's too late now. Go check this out immediately after the show, because trust me, you will love it. If you've never seen Progress, you will be addicted. We've got the entire tape library. We have all of the current products, some of your favorite stars ever, where they cut their teeth. And not only that, what's going on every chapter just gets better and better and better. And what makes this even sweeter is we're going to give you a deal. So you're going to want to use this code. That's Watch Progress 1. You're going to get 50% off that first month on Demand Progress Plus, which is not only just the home of Progress, but Defy and more promotions. Tons of watching material and time. If you're a wrestling fan, this is a can't miss move. Once again, that code one more time, Watch Progress 1. That's 50% off your first month. And if you're a fraction fan, that's half. So if you don't do decimals and you do fractions, that's half off. And you're going to love it. I assure you. Let's talk about something else, though. Let's talk about the world title. Gunther, the artist formerly known as Walter, which is, I don't understand how that W became a V, but that's not what this conversation's about. I'm just saying I've never gotten that. W and V are right next to each other in the alphabet. It's real close. How did we just put a V if it's Walter? That's all I'm saying. Sorry, it's a spelling thing for me. But we've got Gunther, we've got Priest, and we've got shenanigans. Finn Balor puts it on Damian Priest. Gunther retains. Head games didn't work. Not enough. Not only that, even Gunther wanted to do it alone. Didn't have to. Finn Balor makes the move and gets out there. I mean, Gunther as world champion is as believable maybe as any title holder in all of professional wrestling.
Yep.
But this one, it felt like for a second, Priest had him on the ropes, at least with the mind games. And then we had the rug snatched out from under us. I'm cool with that, but where do Gunther and Priest, and then of course, besides the Finn Balor part of this, where do these three go after this match, Ignacio? That's the first thing I want to toss to you. And then your thoughts on the match as a whole.
I smell, well, given with the finish to the conclusion of the match, I smell triple threat coming, which I'm not a big fan of. Of Finn Balor getting involved in this, not necessarily continuing his feud with Damian Priest, but him getting involved with Damian Priest and the Gunther feud. Because I think they're going to intermingle him now, because they made reference to how Gunther wasn't too thrilled that Finn Balor gave him the assist and help him with the match, because now if they're playing on the Gunther having lost confidence because he lost Cody Rhodes and how he's kind of doubting himself a little bit, this is going to feed into his ego that maybe he's not as good as he thought he was since he's lost to Cody Rhodes, because now Finn Balor gave him the assist and he didn't beat Damian Priest clean. And I think storyline wise for Gunther to get his confidence back, he needs to beat Damian Priest clean. So I like the match. Look, I liked just real quick. I liked all, with the exception of the women's war games. I thought this was a very good pay-per-view. Because usually Survivor Series is kind of like the lame duck in between SummerSlam and Royal Rumble, right? But I thought all these matches were good, solid. And I thought this in particular, I thought Damian Priest exceeded expectations. I thought this was a lot better than their SummerSlam match, because it just seemed like It was better storytelling, in-ring storytelling. They seemed like they gelled a lot better than they did at SummerSlam. I don't know if they've been doing like house shows together or whatever, but it just seems like there was a little bit more of a chemistry between the two. And I thought it was very good. I think Gunther did very good. I like the story. I'm not a big I wasn't a big Damian Priest fan, but this match, as far as his in-ring, his work is changing my mind on him. He just needs a lot more. I think he needs a lot more work on his promo skills. I don't think his promos are there yet. He seems like very rehearsed and needs a little more work on that. But as far as where we go from here, I wouldn't mind seeing another Gunther and Damian Priest match, maybe in a cage, something old school gimmicky rules, but nothing too gimmicky, something to that nature. But kind of leave Finn Balor out of it and just kind of leave him a little bit later for the Damian Priest feud.
I don't mind that in the least, Ignacio. Like, kind of save that for down the road almost. Yeah. Like, have them at each other's throats. We got a bunch of comments over here. Also, we've got This is Lando with What Is This? This is your new favorite daily wrestling show, the Daily Broadcast. I appreciate you. And then we've also got Lake M17 with Hey Dude. What's up, dude? And he said the Women's War Games was arguably one of the best matches. That's interesting. We did cover that at the beginning of the show. So once we finish up, rewind. If you watched the first segment, we broke down the entire match for sure. But also a really good buddy of mine, Blake Blackledge, joined. So monster shout out if you're still tuning in 100%. But yes, Ignacio, I am with you on the Priest thing. From bell to bell, I think this might have been his best effort yet on the main roster. So too. Like 1000%. Like he looked great and it looked close the whole way. He made me believe. And that's something that I really appreciate. Deontay Belladonna, friend of the show here with, I had to watch that IC triple threat match again. It was really good. Yes, sir. It was really good. It was interesting too. It was a fascinating match. I don't know if the actual Shinsuke Nakamura just joined the chat over on Instagram, but if it's you, Shin, monster shout out. I mean, the name is Shinsuke Nakamura.
Love your entrance.
Like it could easily actually be him. If you're listening, we appreciate you and feel free to come on for an interview anytime. Welcome, open spot. And then we've got to your point earlier about in a cage or something with a gimmick. Hell in a Cell match, Damian Priest versus Gunther from Shawn Ellis makes a heck of a lot of sense, Ignacio. I'm all over that. Let's keep it rolling. Let's get to this main event.
I do want to say something about the Gunther match. And it's tough because the weirdest thing is it almost felt like the match didn't line up. The entire story was Damian Priest was always getting the better of him, and like he attacked him backstage, he kicked him low. Damian Priest kept on getting the upper hand, and Gunther could not get a single word out since before Crown Jewel. Yeah. Unless he was talking to Ludwig Kaiser backstage. This match was Gunther dominating him. This match did not fit the entire storyline that they were presenting. That was the weirdest thing. I thought like the psychology was great.
Okay, I was going to move on.
Damian did it well. But I'm sitting here saying this did not match the story. The story I was telling was Gunther was losing his luster. Gunther was losing his confidence. And now and he dog walked Damian. I thought the SummerSlam match was better. I thought that was more hard hitting. That was stiffer. This one felt too much like it didn't align. SummerSlam felt like, okay, Damian has something to prove because he is yet to get the job done by himself. He couldn't beat Jey Uso by himself. He couldn't beat Seth Rollins by himself. He couldn't beat Drew McIntyre by himself. And Gunther was his first challenger, and he failed. This was now, okay, Gunther doesn't have his lesson. Gunther is losing his confidence, but he still dog walked him. And he still whooped him the majority of the match.
It's really interesting because Gunther gets showered with a lot of praise for his in-ring ability. And we all know how good he is, right? And how versatile his moveset is and his work is. But it is interesting. You made a really good point there. He wrestled just a normal Gunther match. And it didn't necessarily fit the story. This would be one of the I mean, you could probably count them on one hand in the last 5 years between Gunther and Walter. How many times a match he wrestled did not fit the story that was told outside of the match, right? Inside the context of the storyline, the match makes less sense. If you take that away, it's a beautifully wrestled match.
Well, bro, I think maybe that, in my opinion, that's kind of the point, is that Gunther wrestled his match and then he wiped the floor with Damian Priest because Damian Priest can't match Gunther style. And Damian Priest is a brawler, and Gunther wiped the floor with him because he wrestled the Gunther match. That's Gunther showing you, like, hey, I can still do this and I can do it my way, my style. I don't have to resort to anybody else's style.
That's a really good point.
My only question would be is then why are we continuing this story? Because clearly Finn Balor costing him is going to go, okay, well, Gunther still didn't get the job done.
Yeah, because he didn't beat him.
If Gunther barely beat Damian Priest this time, I could see that making sense. Okay, he barely beat Damian Priest at Survivor Series. Maybe he is losing his aura. Maybe he isn't what he used to be. This was Gunther dog walking him, and then Finn Balor still helped him.
Yeah,
like it's still a weird.
It was kind of a dog pile on Priest, because even when Priest had his big baby face comeback run, right, and got his spots in when he did, right, you still realize he was fighting from behind. There's no
exactly. He was fighting as the underdog when the story was Gunther might be the underdog because Damian keeps getting the upper hand.
Yes. Gunther's never really the underdog, and in realistic terms, he's not.
The story.
In all sincerity, guys, we do got to keep it rolling, because otherwise we're gonna want to have our time on this main event. We can break down the world title match the rest of the day, but we did have men's war game. We had war games. As Regal said, Tylus Regal, by the way, who got William Regal a dress shirt that he can't button the top button? What was up with that?
Talk about time.
I'm just saying, like, I love that he said war games, but like, can we get him a shirt that fits? That's all I'm asking. Like, who that's somebody else's job. Men's war games last night. Bloodline versus Bloodline. With CM Punk, with a little bit of CM Punk salt added on, seasoned salt in there. I loved this match. This was awesome. This was really, really, really everything you can ask for. The little moments, oh no, Sammy's going first, not you. The Punk getting into it with the cage, all of it leading up to the eventual everybody hits their move finish, which was awesome. I really did enjoy this top to bottom, but it is not what I expected. And I don't know where we go from here to make the new Bloodline feel as strong as they felt going into this. That's my only concern. Outside of that, I thought everything execution-wise in this match was, what more can you ask for? But I don't know how we make people believe that the new Bloodline is still just as strong as the old one, considering the way the loss happened. Ignacio, want to get your thoughts on the match as a whole, and where do you see this whole Bloodline saga going from here? Because we got no Rock.
Well, I haven't been a big fan of these WWE style War Games matches, although the one they did a couple of years ago with the Bloodline was pretty good. Probably the best one I've seen since they started doing them in NXT and the main roster. But this one was all right. It told a good story. First of all, I don't like the guys in the shark cage. I don't like, an open top, right? But then the guys get to do their stuff off the cage and all that stuff. But I mean, I'm just not a big fan of it. But storytelling wise, I thought it was very good. I didn't see the OG Bloodline coming out on top, but they came out on top. It had great rhythm. I don't like the whole, they've done it every year, where, when the last person's enter the cage, everybody stops and then they do that they line up on opposite sides of the rings or the cages and they charge. I hate that. I think that's silly. It's ridiculous. But other than that, I thought it told a good story. I thought the whole story between CM Punk and Roman Reigns, as Punk saved Reigns from getting annihilated by Bronson Reed.
Yeah.
Roman can appreciate that, and he did. But it's like, where do they go from there? Because eventually we're gonna get that matchup, but when? That's the question. Is it going to be Rumble, WrestleMania? But I thought overall it was an okay War Games. It told a good story. And where do we go from the new Bloodline from here? I just think it's the new Bloodline is made to crumble. You know, it's not made to last. It's made to feud with the OG bloodline, and eventually they're just gonna crumble. And then Solo, and either he'll rejoin the original bloodline or he'll go his own way. Same thing with the Tamatanga Tangaloa and Jacob Fatu, and they'll go their own way. And you know, it might not be right away. It might be maybe 3-6 months from now, but it's made to crumble. It's not going to last. It's made so the OG bloodline to come out on top, to rebuild back up Roman, to back up to rebuild the Usos and so forth. Maybe not necessarily as the tag team, but they can go back their own way, and Jay can have his success, and you know, to give something Sammy to do. That's what it's built for. And I think maybe eventually they are going to introduce Rock into the fold, and that's
I think so too.
Going to go into what's going to happen at WrestleMania, and then we'll probably see an end to the new bloodline there.
Absolutely, and I apologize, Ignacio, because I agree with basically everything you just said there, like 100%. But we are up against the clock slightly, so Coby, I'm going to go straight to you. Obviously, you reviewed the match too. We've got some comments really quickly before I toss it to you. Deontay Belladonna said you can't put it over the 2022 War Games match. That was a perfect War Games. That's fair as well. He also added that charging moment has been used since 2018. It's starting to get obvious and boring. I get it. I will say an interesting spot. Ignacio brought up the fact that the cage is open. And I've always been like, somebody can just get in. You can climb it. I think it's interesting they used that spot to have Roman's entrance happen into the fold because the door was locked. But either way, that is the only positive that I see to Ignacio's earlier point about the cage not being roofed, besides the spots off the top of it. But Coby, you reviewed it. Break it down for us.
I mean, the one thing I think that they haven't done it enough with is they keep selling us on the idea of, oh, if you leave the cage, you quit. And I don't want to say someone has to do that eventually to make this worth it, that the cage is open, but it might actually benefit us if we're gonna sit here and go, oh, these cages are open, and if the stipulation is if person A leaves the cage, they forfeit for their team. That would at least make this a healthy decision to me. But that's the thing. This match was phenomenal. I can't sit here and say I don't think there was a better men's War Games match. Last year's was fun and enjoyable, but this one was fired on all cylinders. This one felt like two people leading their cavalry. You had Solo Sikoa making the decisions. No, Jacob's going this time. And then you had Roman having his inter-team dynamics with CM Punk, where he said, no, Sammy's going. And then Punk charged him, making Roman last. Like, there's a lot of really good things, and I can break this down piece by piece by piece and talk about it all day, but it's a brilliant match. And there's two things coming out of this. There's, of course, our Punk saying, when I want that favor, I'll be coming. I'll come find you. So whenever this favor happens, whenever it's going to come, we know Punk is going to come back to Paul Heyman to do this. But the other one is that is kind of like, and obviously War Games is a blood feud. These are meant to be two teams that are going to have a blow-off match inside of the match beyond, also known as War Games. But the thing is Michael Cole goes, yeah, but Solo still has the Ula Fala. It's like, yeah, this isn't ending this feud, is this? And it's not, because Solo and Roman still has to happen, and I don't physically know when it does, because it's not going to be one of the few matches that aren't a Royal Rumble on the Royal Rumble show. Yeah. And I don't think it happens at the Chamber. I don't know which show this would be that this match could even happen on, and I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm struggling to say it's not WrestleMania still.
That is completely fair, Coby. I think that's a completely fair assessment, and I'm with you. Like, when do we actually get the answers when it comes to this whole Solo, Roman, and the Ulafala, like you mentioned, Michael Cole mentioned as well? When do we get that paid off? Obviously, we're up against the clock, and I do apologize, guys. So, Anthony, I'm going to go directly to you here. But your thoughts when it comes to this match, what's coming out of it, how they executed it, all of the above, pretty much everything we've discussed. Do me a favor, put a big cherry and a bow on this one.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the match. Was it the greatest War Games of all time? I don't think so, but it is one of the better ones. I love the storytelling leading into it. Obviously, the Bloodline story is the constant for the past few years. Punk taunting the new Bloodline in the shark cages, which allegedly was unscripted. I thought added something to it. It added to the Punk. He's a wild card. It kind of worked. Tama Tonga with the creepy stalking and climbing of the cage like a savage. Reminded me of like a jackal, or a hyena rather. But yeah, but I
Same,
but
same.
yeah, same. But yeah, I enjoyed that. I've said multiple times, out of the new Bloodline, the only two that I really see anything in is Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga. I don't see anything in Solo. I don't see that's the guy that's going to.
I'm actually starting to see Solo, but we'll discuss that later.
No. But I don't see him as like a face of a company or world champion. I just don't see it. I just don't. I want to be wrong, but I don't. Jacob Fatu, yeah, that's a guy you get behind. Tama Tonga, he's interesting enough, so I like it. I love the little Roman doesn't trust Punk, and then they have the nice little moment with the table spot. Jacob Fatu selling in the match was great. Ultimately, I think this is going to lead to Solo has been doing this for The Rock the entire time. Like his father before him, he's going to cut, I did it for The Rock. Because I think that's where this goes. I have no interest in seeing Roman against Solo at Mania.
This is really fascinating what you just said, because I didn't notice it until this weekend. So we have Paul Heyman enter in basically what Solo used to be wearing, red t-shirt and a suit.
Yeah.
Right? Did you notice what Solo was wearing last week? Black turtleneck with a chain,
like
hanging down, just like
the only other thing that the other two things was when they locked the cage, which I thought was a dumb spot because it's 5 monsters. You 5 can't take Roman out to prevent him from climbing in. I thought Heyman should have came down with the bulb cutters. I thought that should have been.
That would have been really cool. That's actually a good call.
I did love the camera shot of Paul yelling at Punk and Roman, "Get your crap together. You need to be united." And obviously the tease for what the favor is. That's long-term storytelling, and I'm looking forward to wherever that goes.
100%. I'm with you. I will say this, though. We could discuss this for the rest of the day, and I know that, and we'd love to do it. But I've got a mild hangover that I got to go beat, so we are heading out here. Thank you, everybody that tuned in. Honestly, the comments have been so positive. Everybody that tuned in today, monster shout out. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already liked and subscribed, please do. It means the world to us. Have an awesome Sunday. On behalf of me, Clark, Coby Galenzoski, Anthony Ricciardi, Ignacio, thank you from everybody at WR. I hope you had an awesome Thanksgiving. I hope you enjoyed Survivor Series. Tune in every single day. We're back, same place, same time. That's noon Pacific. That's, of course, 8 o'clock over in the UK, 3 o'clock on the East Coast, which is 2 Central, 1 Mountain. And that's 9 a.m. in Hawaii for my friends. Thank you once again. Have an awesome day, and we will talk to everybody soon.